My 29 female basically adopted my toddler daughter, Mia, when she was born. Her mother was my best friend and passed away during childbirth due to pregnancy complications. She grew up along the Bible Belt and picked a university that was far away, so her parents didn't even know nor would they approve of the baby. The father was a rich foreigner who did nothing but sleep around and spend his parents' money. He was undoubtedly wealthy, and she was but one of the many girls that had fallen for his good looks and money. The man knew of the pregnancy, but didn't care as he had an arranged marriage waiting back home and left her. After her passing, her parents have been more accepting of Mia and occasionally visit with gifts. We've become a non-conventional happy family with 2 sets of grandparents, bio moms and mine, and me to raise her. Recently, the biological father's parents reached out to me about Mia. They had hired a private investigator to find their granddaughter. It turns out his wife, the arranged one, was cheating on him, and the child they were raising was not their son. He passed away 2 years ago, and they now want to adopt their biological child and continue their lineage, etc. Although I can see them providing a much better life for Mia, I'm middle class, they're part of the top 0.1% for sure. It just rubs me the wrong way that they only tried looking for her after their son passed away and could not produce any more heirs. Blood relationships are very important in their culture, and I don't wish to deny Mia her blood relatives since I've introduced her to her mother's side's grandparents. But if they were to adopt her, she would have to move to their country, away from me, my parents, and her mother's side biological grandparents. So they have offered us all plane tickets to their country whenever we want to visit Mia. My parents and Mia's bio mom's parents are all fine with this agreement, as they only visit once per year anyways, due to us being on the other side of the country. I have yet to talk to Mia about this, and I don't know if I should, and whether a toddler should even be making these decisions. Am I the idiot to keep my adoptive daughter? Not the idiot. They've already tried and failed to raise one child correctly. They don't get a second chance just because they failed the first time. She's your daughter, not their do-over. I also think you'll never see her again if you relinquish her to them. Mia's happiness and stability are the #1 issue, and dislocating her from her found family into a new culture would be profoundly destabilizing. Instead, she can connect with them remotely and begin visiting when she's 18. OP, it's not the wealth that should be the focus, but will they provide a happy and safe environment for Mia? Some cultures are repressive towards the girl child. Will that come under play? Especially since the bio father had an arranged marriage. That would be a hard no for me, no matter how wealthy they are. They knew of her existence, but reached out only after their grandson passed away. This does not bode well. Also, you don't know the laws in that other country. Mia might be taken away from you when you step on that soil, and you will have no way of getting her back. It would be best if you spoke with a lawyer. Exactly. And yeah, saying that they'll buy tickets anytime they want, but then they'll say it won't be in the best interest for Mia to see them right now. She needs to get used to her new life, a new set of grandparents. Personally, I would not hand over my child to strangers, even if they are biologically related. Do not take her overseas. You will be told Maya does not remember you anyway, and just to let it go. You would never see that little girl again. Why would you ever even consider giving up your kid? You're the only mom she's ever known. Don't let any of that old world BS guilt you into anything. I hope you don't tell your daughter. And for Christ's sake, never ask her if she wants it, because she'll think you don't love her. She's your daughter. Protect her. My 26 female, sister 22, Angela, became pregnant with my nephew, toddler, Lincoln, the summer she graduated high school. Unfortunately, Lincoln's father is not in the picture. She had 2 possible guys she believed could be Lincoln's father, but neither of them was. I have nothing against single moms who have kids early, but Angela getting pregnant right out of high school might explain her attitude about why she should party while older people are responsible for Lincoln. Since Lincoln was 6 months old, Angela has never stayed home with him for more than 3 days a week. Before, her go-to was to leave Lincoln with my mom or aunt, but my mom's health has declined recently, and my aunt moved for her husband's work, so now I'm Angela's go-to. At maximum, Angela will give me a half-hour notice that she's dropping off Lincoln at my house. Usually there is no notice, and Angela just knocks on my door with Lincoln. Angela has no consideration for what I have to or want to do. She's fortunate that I work a desk job and have my cubicle, so I'm able to keep Lincoln occupied with a DVD player, and my coworkers don't mind, as Lincoln is pretty quiet and calm anyway. Since she started this, I've been telling Angela that she needs to step up and be a mom, because she can't expect me to always be Lincoln's sitter, and parents don't get to party all week long. But Angela will just make excuses about how moms are entitled to have fun without their kids too, and young people don't get that much time to live life before getting old, but she would do it anyway. Angela never followed through, and the last straw was when she came to my house and just dumped Lincoln and his stuff off while informing me that she and her friends were going to Myrtle Beach for the next 3 days. So I had Lincoln wait in a different room with some earbuds, and then told Angela that she could just put Lincoln up for adoption since she has zero interest in being a mom. I also told her that I would help with Lincoln for 3 more weeks while she worked out some long-term childcare options. Then after that, if she tries to dump Lincoln on me again, I'll call child services on her. I'm fully prepared to do it. We argued before she eventually took Lincoln back and left. My friends agreed that even though it's a last resort, I should be prepared to do it because I can't spend Lincoln's whole life dropping everything to babysit him, and Angela needs to get her act together. However, my other family members are saying it's going way too far to even think about calling child services on Angela because she's family, and she's a young woman who it's unfair to have her entire life revolve around a child. They and Angela all look down on adoption because you rehome dogs, not babies. And as I mentioned, my mom is in poor health, and since I plan to stay child-free, I would throw away her potential opportunity to watch a grandchild grow up. Am I the idiot for being prepared to call child services on my sister anyways? Not the idiot. Your sister could have had a termination or placed her son for adoption. She chose instead to neglect him while your whole family cheers her on. And if I were OP's mom, I wouldn't be too concerned about this being her only chance to be a grandma. However, I'd bet anything that Angela's not done having babies for others to care for. It's so great that those outspoken family members have now volunteered themselves to take on this burden. If Angela drops her kid off at OP again, just do the same by dropping them off at their homes. They're family after all, right? Angela chose to have a child right out of high school. She's the one who should take care of him. She's the mother, not you. If it's unfair to have her life revolve around a child, she shouldn't have become a mother then. And it's unfair to you that your life is forced to revolve around a child that's not yours. Tell all of those family members, well, she should have thought about that before she had a baby. Why is she allowed to have a future without a kid, but you're not? I'm seething right now. I, 18 female, stopped living at my mom's when I was 17. She and I do not have a very good relationship, and it has become more strained over the years. The trouble started when I was 8, and my mom started dating her husband. I was several months out from losing my dad, and when she introduced me to her husband, then boyfriend, I was honest that I didn't like her dating. She told me I would come around, but within 4 months, she left me with a cousin and got engaged to him while his kids were present. I found out because my cousin got a text with a photo of them, and the news had already gone around to the rest of my mom's family and her husband's family. Then, I was the last person to find out about her being pregnant, 2 years after that point. Her stepson, who was 15 at the time, decided he would taunt me with the news and say how mom had fully replaced my dad, and I was next. I don't think he saw it that way, but he knew that's how I felt about my mom being remarried. Apparently, they were all taken by their dad to be told, while mom was telling her family. It was like a week later when he taunted me over it. They did attempt to include me and stuff, but because I wasn't into it, I was just left to do my own thing. Mom pulled away from me and then felt bad and tried to bond. Eventually, I just decided I had lost her because I couldn't blend with her husband and his kids, because she would always resent me for that, the way I resented her for moving so fast after dad and putting everyone before me. I moved in with my dad's parents. This is where I was when I applied for college and stuff, and I got the scholarship. I never told my mom. We didn't talk for months. It was only after I started college last week that she reached out to my grandparents about something, and she found out. She was upset, furious, all the stuff, and she asked how I could leave her out of something so huge because she would have celebrated the news with me. I told her I didn't really consider her a part of my life anymore, and just like she had moved on with her life away from me, I had done the same away from her. She told me it was different and I was being cruel. Her husband took over and demanded I go to them and discuss everything as a family so my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. I never set out to hurt my mom, but I did stop thinking about her role in my life after I moved out. Am I the idiot? So that my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. That says it all, that it still isn't about you. She and they are still only thinking of themselves, and how dare you not submit to them? Not the idiot, OP. I hope you have a good time at college. Yeah, stepdad sounds like a piece of work. What's that? You put in the effort to get a full ride scholarship to college? How selfish and spoiled you must be. It's clear that neither of them intended to put up money for college if OP had already started by the time they found out, and then they chose to be mad about it rather than happy for her. Interesting emotional choice to say the least. I guess mom and stepdad don't understand the definition of spoiled. Working hard for a scholarship and not taking money from them in college is the opposite of being spoiled. The fact that he's using the word spoiled means he doesn't have any real arguments and is just repeating all the typical complaints he sees of millennials and Gen Z. Mom needs to realize that leaving you out of her announcements has lost the right to be included in yours. It's interesting that your mom is upset not to know about your scholarship, but had no discussion with you about your plans after graduation. That seems so basic a discussion. Hey, what are your plans? Communication is a two-way street. She pushed you out of her life. Don't be bullied into letting her back in now. My 27 female, brother 32, was engaged to my best friend Julia, 30 female, like 8 years ago. They had a son, Josh, pre-tween. Julia and my brother broke up because he was caught cheating with a man on Julia. They separated, and my brother married that man, 31, 3 years ago. They also have an adopted son, Max, younger child. By the way, Julia and I are still best friends. My brother's stupidity didn't affect our friendship. I'm getting married to my wonderful fiance, Ben, this October. Julia will be there since she is my best friend, and she's requested that I don't invite my brother's husband because he makes her feel uncomfortable. I delivered the invitations 2 weeks ago. I sent it to my brother, and it specified on the invitation that it was only for my brother and Josh. He called me asking if there was a mistake and reminded me that his household had 4 people, but I told him that his husband wasn't invited for obvious reasons and that Max would make Julia uncomfortable, so I was only inviting him and Josh to avoid drama. He told me that he would never allow his husband and son to be disrespected this way. I asked him to at least let Josh come, but he refused. My parents found out and called me the idiot for prioritizing a friend over my brother, and Ben seemed to be on their side. I mean, Julia and my brother don't get along, and Julia hates my brother-in-law, so I want to avoid drama. I can't please everyone, and my brother isn't in a place where he gets to make requests because of what he did to Julia. Everyone seems to be on my brother's side and are calling me an idiot, to the point where I'm reconsidering inviting my brother-in-law and asking Julia to try and ignore them. Not the idiot. My answer would be different if the dude weren't the affair partner, but then I imagine Julia wouldn't take an issue with it if that hadn't happened. It's bad enough your brother cheated, but to bring his affair partner? Like, here's our happy family, screw you, Julia. Figuring out you're gay is not a free pass to cheat. I agree with not condoning the cheating, but why invite the brother? Or why invite one of her brother's children but not the other one? I think this is fairly complicated. Her brother made a huge mistake, but it doesn't make it okay. But he's been married for 3 years now to this man, and they have established a family together. I'm confused about where OP decided to draw her boundaries for who she would invite and who she wouldn't. Exactly. You can invite whoever you want to your wedding, but you must be aware that this will ruin your relationship with your brother forever. If you haven't forgiven him for the affair, it's your choice. You are the idiot because you've chosen to invite only one child. Your brother has 2 children, and the second child is innocent. You're doing this for Julia for one day and not giving a crap about what happens for all the days after with those boys. She chose not to invite the brother-in-law because he was an affair partner in an affair that emotionally damaged her best friend. I honestly wouldn't invite him either. But also, I am closer to my best friend rather than my sibling. We like to preach that we can choose our family and cut out toxic members. Also, I think inviting his partner to the wedding may come off as being supportive of their relationship, including how it began, which would not be a good look, especially at her wedding. I recently got married to the love of my life. Wedding planning was nothing but a nightmare between her overbearing mom and my mom and sisters passively aggressively disapproving. The biggest issue of contention was that my wife wanted our pictures to look nice, so she wanted the immediate family to follow a color scheme. Now, I know opinions about that vary, but it's important to note that my family's not hurting for money. They would be buying new clothes for the wedding anyway. And when my mom really dug her heels in, we offered to pay for her outfit. My family was extremely upset. They all refused to comply and said we were using them as dolls, ruining the wedding for them, which was dehumanizing. I backed my wife and said they would be asked to leave if they didn't wear the color scheme, but again, offered to pay for their clothes. They didn't take me up on my offer and did show up appropriately dressed. I noticed they were all being cold though. No congratulations, no hugging, just cold and disinterested. When it was time to take pictures, my mom told me they would sit the pictures out. They felt they had been used as props and were not okay with that being documented. I told her she was ridiculous and asked whether she wanted pictures from her son's wedding. My sister jumped in and told me they weren't treated like family, so they didn't want pictures. Note, these weren't even weird colors they would never wear. I was furious, and my wife was going to be so hurt. I told them they could just get out if they didn't want to be in the pictures. They seemed shocked, but left. My younger sister called me a brainwashed piece of crap, but my mom and older sister just got their stuff and wouldn't even look at me. My stepdad told me that my mom wouldn't admit it, but I hurt her feelings. None of them have reached out since the wedding. You are the idiot. All of this matchy-matchy or the pics won't look right is ridiculous. The vast majority of formal events outside of weddings do not require color schemes, and the pics still look amazing because everyone feels good about looking their best and supporting whatever they're dressed up for. Your wife is the idiot for making this a hill to die on. You are the idiot because it's your wedding too, and this was not worth feuding with family or anyone else over. You don't get off the hook on the grounds that you were just supporting your wife. Not the idiot. It was a color scheme, not matching tattoos. And if his family's acting so petty over this, they probably have deeper issues. The fact that his sister called him a brainwashed piece of crap indicates that at least she has something against his wife and is implying the wife is controlling. Also, if your family was being so cold, why would you want them at the wedding anyway? You probably saved the mood by kicking them out. Your kid's wedding is not the place to throw a fit. Exactly. You don't make a scene at someone else's wedding. If they didn't want to go along with it, they shouldn't have. Not gone halfway and tried to ruin one of the most memorable days of your life. You are under no obligation to be kind to people who treat you poorly, whether or not you share DNA. My daughter, 27, recently got engaged to her fiancé, same age. They've been together since they started college, and he's genuinely a great guy, and we consider each other friends. The wedding's planned for September, and since they want to go low budget, I offered to cover it. I meant for it to be a no strings attached, as long as they agreed to cover it if it went over budget, $10K. Now, here's the issue at hand. My daughter and her fiancé have a few friends you might call hippie-ish. Some of them are into naturism, and they also have started trying it out. A couple they know actually had a no clothes allowed wedding, and they actually went and enjoyed it, so I'm told. They were talking to me about the planning and said they wanted it to be clothing optional, as in you can wear whatever you want or nothing at all. I guess a few of their friends probably would be choosing the second option, but moreover, they themselves want to be naked for the actual ceremony. Why exactly, I don't understand. I told them I didn't think it was a good idea and that the whole thing seemed weird. Also, they planned for it to be child-free, so nobody said anything about that, which means some extended family wouldn't be able to know it was an optional clothing wedding. So in the end, I told them that if that's what they wanted, I won't help pay for it. I also said that I probably wouldn't come since, no offense, I don't want to see either of them with no clothing. My daughter said fine, they'd save up and cover it, but I'm not invited whenever they do have the money. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter that I'm not helping to pay for their wedding? Well, that's why you don't bring kids to a child-free wedding. You're not the idiot. The clothing optional isn't something you can spring on the everyday man, especially for one day. It takes practice, and a wedding with drinks and dancing, presumably, is not a great place to start with the newbies. They should also do a separate ceremony and invite those who are comfortable with the idea. It's very spiritual, and I can totally understand wanting to connect with your spouse on that level, but not in front of my family. If you can't go and enjoy yourself, then I understand not paying. In the same breath, if you'd leave her the money in your will, what's the difference between giving it to her now versus later? These people whining about no strings attached are funny. You meant things like location, food, flowers, and all those fun choices couples get to make, not the decision to expose themselves in front of their entire family and exclude minor family members without having any conversation with you. You can do whatever you want with your money and gifts. You haven't given it yet, so it's yours to do with what you will. I can't help but wonder about all the claims that no strings attached means no strings. I think the idea of such a wedding is really sweet and spiritual, but I absolutely would not want to see my family like that, and vice versa. Those would be two separate ceremonies at best. Also, it's not like you're pulling funds because they want a different flavored cake than you want. My mother threatened to do just that, and uninviting you because they decided to pay for their wedding themselves, like most people do, was very cold. Honestly, I have no idea what they're thinking. Can you imagine those wedding photos? OP, you might really need to notify the family if she hasn't told anybody about the clothing optional thing. LOL, this is so hilarious. I share two kids, Indy, tween male, and Colby, female pre-tween, with my ex-wife, Thora. We've remained very close, and she and I don't follow a strict parenting plan. We do our best to have the kids see us as much as possible. We celebrate every birthday and every Christmas together, and we show up to support our kids together as much as we can make work with our jobs. Our families are also still very tight. The kids love it. Sometimes it'll be my parenting time, but they want Thora, so they spend that day with her, or vice versa. It works so well for the kids. Thora married Michael in November 2021. He and I got along in the beginning. He loved Thora and was great with the kids, which is what Thora and I cared about most. But then this past summer, some things changed with Michael. An example is Indy was singing and playing an instrument at this little talent show at summer camp set up. Thora and I both went, and so did Michael, who took the day off work. Michael didn't look happy to see me, and once Thora wasn't within earshot or sightline, he was visibly tense, and I swear he groaned at some point near me. Then Thora had to go out of state to see a friend of hers who was very sick. The kids chose to stay with me, and I don't believe Michael was happy about that. I tried to ask him about it, but he swore things were fine. In November, Indy and Colby had a busy month with different standout things with extracurriculars in school. I was lucky enough to attend 9 out of 10 of them, with Thora attending 8 out of 10. Michael got to attend 3 out of 10. All 3 were ones I could attend, and it felt very much like he didn't want me to be there. Late last month, when Michael and I were the ones attending a school function for the kids, He asked me to attend fewer of the kids' events and to let him and Thora do some of that stuff with the kids as a family. I told them they already did. He said not when I'm around, and that I'm getting in the way of him being a parental figure for the kids. I told him he was a parental figure, and the kids loved him. He said they would never consider us equal until they saw him instead of me at some of these events. He said it's important for the more stable family unit of 4. I told him I was not willing to miss the kids' events. He didn't take it well and accused me of interfering and alienating their chances of a family unit. He texted me after the event with things he wanted me to miss, including Indy's elementary school graduation in May. I told him it wasn't happening. He told me Thora wanted this too. Thora knew nothing of this and told me the kids would be so upset if we did what Michael wanted, which I knew this also. She was angry at Michael. Michael's still angry at me. He called me an idiot. I don't want to believe I'm an idiot, but I know this is not the norm for every divorced parent situation, and it makes me ask if I am the idiot for not letting them have some of those events just for them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He doesn't get to tell you, their biological father, to leave the room, for he who's only been around for a couple of years. State of him asking you to step aside from being a present father. He's an idiot, and lying to you about what your ex said shows him to be a liar too, manipulating his way to you being a less present father. Yikes. What blows my mind is the fact that OP is willing to allow this guy an essential role in his children's life, because more love and support is a good thing. But the dude just keeps puffing his chest out to see who's the manlier man, who can be the best dad figure, who's more important to the kids, when the kids love them both differently in their own special way. I just don't get it. This is exactly what I was thinking, especially with the stable family unit comment. OP is already part of a stable family unit. Michael doesn't want to be respected more by the kids. He wants to replace OP entirely. I wouldn't be surprised if he's insecure about OP's relationship with his ex-wife, or even pushing the kids to call him dad instead of OP. Michael's trying to replace OP as the kid's primary father figure, for sure. OP is the monkey wrench in Michael's perfect little nuclear family fantasy, and that's a battle he'll always lose. OP will always be their father, one who's always been there for them, someone they can count on finding in the audience when they look for someone for reassurance. I hate how he's trying to alienate OP to create their family unit of 4. It's like he wishes OP were a deadbeat so he could step up and be the parent. OP is a great dad. Congratulations. Keep it up. My young son and I are very close. We're so close that when I asked him where he'd like to go for his upcoming birthday, he said, with you. Jimmy does sleep with me every night too. I have to go on an overnight trip tomorrow and return on Saturday. I'm staying because it won't be safe to drive with this storm that'll roll through, and I'm just a single dad. Jimmy will be terrified of this storm. I asked my young teen son if Jack could sleep in my bed with Jimmy. Jack refused. He wants to sleep in his room by himself. He told me to ask his brother Adam, tween, to sleep with Jimmy, but Adam's a bit of a curmudgeon. I told him that Jimmy's very attached to him, and he doesn't realize how lucky he is to have that. Jimmy's all over Jack, almost as he's all over me. I won't ask their uncle to co-sleep, because that is weird, so I decided to take Jimmy with me. I can pick him up from school early tomorrow, and we can take a quick plane trip, play in an office, and then crash at a motel. Adam and Jack are mad that they can't go. I told them it was way too complicated to take 3 boys on an overnight trip. I'm not taking Jimmy as a reward, but to keep things calm. I'm sure their uncle will do something funnier with them. I think they just want to go on a plane. Also, I'm not playing favorites. You are the idiot. When you're at the point of needing to take a kid on a business trip just because there's a thunderstorm coming, he needs to learn to sleep in his own bed. Past time for it. Playing favorites isn't the only problem here. Yeah, plain and simple, you're absolutely playing favorites and you know it, or you wouldn't have added that at the end. The impact is usually more important than the intent in the parenting gig. You can tell yourself and your kids that you aren't playing favorites, but your actions show. Because at the end of the day, one kid is getting a fun, special one-on-one trip with dad, and the others get bupkis. That's not okay. Congrats. Your kindergartner will grow up and remember how special he was to be taken on a trip with daddy and be catered to, while all the other two sons will remember is how their dad had a golden child. Also, Jimmy's young. Do him a favor and work on getting him his own space so he can become his own person instead of an extension of you. I, 29 male, am a super social guy at work. We used to have a really cold, unwelcoming office, and my team, 4 of us all together, was brought in to improve morale. So I'm not saying that to brag. It's literally part of my job description, organizing events, fielding complaints, and relationship dynamics, just generally making sure everyone is comfortable and happy. I'd like to say I'm pretty darn well liked and haven't seen any evidence to the contrary yet. And this has spilled over into my life in general, and I'm one of those always smiling types overall. I said this because my colleagues recently asked if I had a problem with our newest starter, 31 female. She works in sales and is a little quiet, most likely because she's new, but ostensibly nice from what I hear. I've not got anything against her personally per se, but she's allegedly mentioned to my team, but not me, that she doesn't get invited to outside of work events, non-official functions, parties, dinners, etc. She's looped into all the official events, or invited out to lunch at all, and spends a lot of time alone or around the office. I admit to giving her a wide berth, but that's just because during her first week before we'd been introduced, I was getting onto the elevator and noticed someone had dropped a key card in the lobby. I recognized her face and approached her at her desk. When I got to our floor, she looked apprehensive about me approaching, so I slapped on a smile and went to speak. I just got out and excused me, but I think, before she interrupted with what sounded like a pre-prepared speech about how she wants to keep work and personal life separate and didn't wish to engage unless it was work-related. I didn't say anything and just placed her card on her desk and left it at that. She approached me at lunch that day to apologize and said she thought I was asking her out, but did so in front of a crowd of people to whom I then had to explain myself. Overall, she made me uncomfortable and feel guilty for being friendly, so I followed her rules and only sent her emails and group threads. Then, seeing as I'm a social hub in and outside of work, this had apparently had a knock-on effect of others distancing themselves too. So, am I the idiot for being cold to a newish coworker? P.S. I have a partner of 4 years who works with us in a different department. Not the idiot. Kinda weird that she thought you were automatically hitting on her. I would say invite her, or have people invite her, but keep the convo to a minimum so as not to have her come up with the weird, "oh, he wants me" thing. Or maybe invite your partner along so she can tell you're in a committed relationship. I honestly couldn't imagine a situation where I'd start a new job and get hit on by the first person I saw. I would expect them to be welcoming, not "hey baby, wanna." It's off that she would jump right away to thinking a new colleague was about to ask her out. Something triggered her response, and past experiences might have been the reason. Also, she apologized in front of other people, potential witnesses, underscores that she might have experienced some unwanted advances in a past job. I'm glad she had the decency to apologize, but I don't know how this woman expects OP to feel comfortable being around her or interacting with her on any level after she blew up like that in their first meeting. I wouldn't want anything to do with her either. Yeah, she said she was there for work and not to entertain social whims. She made it weird, and she's getting what she asked for. If she hadn't made her clumsy apology so awkward in public, you wouldn't have been grilled to relay every detail of that initial interaction, and the team wouldn't have ever known she expressed this sentiment. It's on her to fix, and frankly, whining to others about it isn't such a hot look either. My 32 female, wife 28, just moved countries so that we can live together. We discussed it before and agreed that this would be the best solution for us because she has relative flexibility in her job and she's self-employed. We live in my country of origin, where I have a job I've held for a few years. She doesn't speak the language of this country, and is struggling to do basic tasks. Additionally, the paperwork here is a lot more complicated than in her country of origin. For example, she's been struggling with things like opening a bank account, figuring out the paperwork required to register herself with the tax system, etc. Every time she needs my help, she uses her not being fluent as an excuse, which I honestly don't understand. We've been together for 5 years, and we've always talked about moving to my home country. While she's taken a few lessons here and there, I don't see a concrete plan for her to learn the language, which doesn't make sense, as we want to put down roots here. I've been helping her as much as possible, found her English-speaking legal help, etc., with the starting up of her business, and offered to go set up a bank account with her. But it's getting to the point where she's just depressed about everything, constantly criticizing the country. I guess it's much easier where she used to live. It's been a month since she's been here, and she's made no progress on registering her business, and therefore no revenue, as she can't work legally without doing this. Recently, I've been caught up with a lot of legal stuff too, unrelated to the couple, mostly family issues, and I've been feeling drained, having to help my parents with things and help my wife. We had a huge argument where she accused me of always being willing to take time to help my parents, but never willing to take time for her. She said that my doing things like getting her a SIM card and going to set up the bank account were not things she should be forced to be grateful for, because I should be helping her out, as it's a system she doesn't understand. I told her she needs to be more independent, because we can't just be relying on me in this relationship. And she's now incredibly angry. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She gave up everything for you. Her life, her home, her family, and her friends. She moved for you to a new and strange country where she knows no one, has nothing but you, and you resent it. Do you even like your wife? She's just uprooted her entire life for you, and you complain about helping her with necessary paperwork, like banking and taxes? I've got to be honest. If I moved to a country that had an entirely different way of doing things than I was accustomed to, for a partner who treated my "how do I survive here" questions like some enormous burden, I'd be moving my happy bud back to where I came from in a hurry. Are you kidding me? My friend, not my husband, came with me everywhere I asked him to when I moved to his country, and I moved to a place where everyone speaks English. You're delusional if you think it's easy to just adapt to an entirely new system. Your poor wife. Do you even care about her well-being? And you are prioritizing your parents over her. Your parents' issues should be secondary to your wife's issues. That's the promise you made when you got married. I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, Cam, 32, for 2 years, and we've been together for 4 in total. He was a friend of my older brother, so I've known him even longer. Kim and I decided to try for a baby, and I'm currently 20 weeks with our first. When we told my mother-in-law the news, she mentioned that every woman in the family had a son before they had a daughter, so she thought the baby would be a boy. Kim and I told her we didn't care what we were having, we just wanted a happy and healthy child. Well, I'm having a girl, and we informed my mother-in-law of this earlier in the evening. Cam and I weren't on board with the idea of a huge dramatic gender reveal, so we just decided to go with casual announcements. Mother-in-law immediately seemed upset at this, and she told me that next time I needed to try harder to give my husband a son. I laughed and I said I didn't really have much choice in the matter, so if and when we have another child, there's nothing I could do to make sure we had a boy then either. She said that it was a fault on my end because she had a boy first. She had all boys, and all of her other sons' wives had boys first. So that meant I was the odd one out. Cam told his mom that he didn't care about having a son or not, and that she needed to stop blaming me for something that couldn't possibly be my fault. Still, she started getting on to him about how he should want a child that can carry on the family name instead of a daughter that'll just be given away. The whole thing was ridiculous. So I told her that once she looked into getting a refresher course and reading up on basic biology she should have learned in the 6th grade, she's free to give me a call and apologize for being ridiculous. My husband and I left after that, and in the car, he said that while he understood my frustration, he didn't appreciate me speaking to his mother like that because I implied that she was an idiot. I told him that I didn't appreciate how she spoke to me and that he should be upset on our daughter's behalf, since his mom seems to think less of our child before she's even born. The rest of the car ride was silent. Honestly, we hadn't talked since returning home. He did defend me to her, so I know he's on my side, but I know he wouldn't have brought up the way I spoke to her unless he thought it was out of line. I feel like a bit of an idiot now, and I'm not sure if I should apologize to her or not. Not the idiot. As one of 2 daughters, tell your husband he needs to step up now, because this will not be the last time someone outright says he should want a boy and that daughters are worthless. That's what your mother-in-law said. Daughters get given away? Your daughter can have any name she wants, have any career she wants, and choose who her family will be. This is a hill to wage war on, Mama. Bear up. Your daughter needs you. Mother-in-law's talking like a British monarch in the 1800s. It's always interesting how families with a culture like girls are worthless, men must pass on the family name, have nothing going for them. Like, there's nothing incredible about their genes besides how full of themselves they are. You can't imply someone's an idiot after they've already outed themselves as one. OP, you were not rude, and it's true. If she knew basic biology, she would know that the male's part determines the gender of the baby. There's nothing a woman can do. You probably hit a sore spot for your mother-in-law and your husband when you pointed out that she was uneducated. She's trying to make you feel inadequate, that you couldn't give them a grandson, which is out of line. Honestly, I wouldn't have been as nice as you. I would have brought out some Google, made sure the text was in a large font, and showed her the science. At this rate, I hope you have all girls, LOL. I, 35 female, should start by acknowledging that 10 years ago, I was a huge idiot. Like, unquestionably, I had a drinking problem and treated the folks around me terribly, including my ex-boyfriend. I'm sober 4 years now, working my program and trying to put better things into the universe. I recently started my first relationship while sober, and things are going well. We're about 3 months in, and he, 35, knows I'm in recovery and that I had a lot of folks to make amends to in my life. A couple of weeks ago, we took a small step into being more serious when he invited me to a college friend's wedding, where I would get to meet many of the folks he went to school with. His friend was the bride. We were getting ready at his apartment on the day of the wedding, and I saw on the invite that the groom's name was similar to my ex's. I didn't put the pieces together because my ex has an extremely common name. Think Bob Smith or Steve Jones level common. And the invite used a variation of the first name. That's not what he went by when we were together. I also thought my ex had moved across the country after things ended between us. If you see where this is going, it was clearly a mistake on my part. We showed up at the church and sat with my boyfriend's friends on the bride's side. We had arrived before most people settled into their seats, and I didn't see anyone I recognized at the time, so I relaxed a bit and chatted with the folks near us. When I heard the music for the ceremony starting, I looked forward and saw that the groom was my ex, and it was too late to leave quietly. I put my head down and tried to be as non-conspicuous as possible, but he saw me because he turned as white as a ghost. I told my boyfriend the 30-second version of what happened, and he agreed we would skip the reception. When the ceremony ended, we tried to exit quietly, but my ex saw me on the way out of the church and got super angry, called me all sorts of names, and said I ruined his wedding by being there. The bride was just silently shooting daggers next to him the whole time. I just kept apologizing and saying it was a mistake, but I've spent the last week agonizing over whether I should have been more careful or double-checked before just showing up. I'm also trying to figure out if I should send a gift or a card or something, apologizing again and explaining what happened. Before realizing the groom was my ex, I contributed to the gift my boyfriend gave, but didn't send anything separately. Not the idiot. I mean, you didn't intentionally go to his wedding. Also, it was 10 years ago. Why is this guy ruining his wedding for it? He could have just ignored you and let you leave. Or whispered to the best man to tell you to leave instead of making a scene and upsetting his current wife. If she traumatized him, it doesn't work like that. I've dated someone like OP, and if I saw him again after his actions, I couldn't promise I'd be rational on a highly emotional day. I honestly might throw up on the spot. I think I could refrain from an outburst, but I'd probably cower behind my husband until someone got him to leave. There's a 100% chance he would be removed from the wedding, and a 100% chance I'd be some form of upset upon seeing him there. There's a non-0% chance that I'd freak out. Send an email or text to your ex that starts with the line, "I promise I will not contact you again. I just wanted to apologize and explain myself." Explain that you're in recovery, and part of that is admitting that you were terrible to your boyfriend in the past, and you apologize for that. Explain that you attended the wedding as a guest of your new boyfriend and had no idea it was his until you saw him. You don't even need to admit you saw the invitation or anything. Less is more here. Tell him you're so sorry for this terrible coincidence that brought him pain on his big day. You wish him and his new wife nothing but happiness. I disagree. OP's boyfriend should pass on the apology to the bride. Just a brief sorry, we had no idea sort of thing. I've been the wronged party before. Let me tell you, apologies are not for the victim. Apologies are to ease the abuser's guilt. If the groom feels re-victimized by your presence, then the best thing OP can do is stay away and deal with her feelings without involving him. My husband rented his aunt's home before we got married. He signed a month-to-month lease when he moved in. I moved in with him after our marriage because the rent was cheap. My parents recently came to me asking if they could park their RV at our home. I didn't see a problem with this. Our yards are really big and there's space. Because of the city ordinance, the RV has to be parked in the backyard. There was no RV gate in the fence. My husband went to his aunt and asked if we could install an RV gate. His aunt said no. My husband relayed the message to me, and my parents seemed upset when I told them. 2 days ago, I came home from work and saw that my dad had a construction crew at our home and had removed part of the fence for the gate. There was an apple tree in the way, and they couldn't fit the RV in the yard. My husband, angry, told my dad not to continue, that they needed to repair the fence. At this point, I felt like it was pointless. The fence guys had already built the columns for the gate. It would cost a lot more money to rebuild the fence. I told my dad to finish the job, but make sure it was left super clean and that it looked nice. I planned on talking to the aunt later and explaining what had happened. I didn't know that my dad had told the guys to remove the tree. My husband's aunt came by, saw the tree cut down, and started crying. She's refused to talk to my dad or me. When my husband came home, he found a 30-day notice on our door, terminating our lease. He tried to call his aunt, and she didn't answer the phone. He then called my mother-in-law, and she went to talk to our aunt. Later, I got several messages calling me an idiot for cutting down the aunt's late husband's tree. I had no idea he planted the tree. Now my husband and his whole family are really angry with me. I never told them to remove the tree. I feel like I'm being thrown under the bus. Am I the idiot here? You are the idiot for letting it continue when your husband said no. The aunt said no to the gate, and no is a complete sentence. Your parents removed a tree from a yard they don't own. How stupid and selfish of them. Everyone is the idiot besides your husband, his aunt, and his family. The aunt can hire a lawyer and sue your parents and the company who did it without her permission. And honestly, I hope she does. Tree law. That tree could easily be worth $150,000 in a lawsuit. They knowingly betrayed the aunt and planned on cutting down the tree. Was the plan just to apologize? Say oops? There's no way the aunt should have anything to do with her again. I'm glad I don't see any mention of children in this, because she's completely betrayed her husband and his family. Your dad is mostly the idiot. He started the gate, plus he ordered the tree to be removed. But why didn't you stop all of this as soon as you realized what was happening? You're the point of contact for your side of the family, so they blame you. You're gonna have to own this one. Who are you married to, your father or your husband? Why did you not put your foot down with your father? I'm just sorry that your husband has to share the consequences of this. Because she knew what her parents were doing. She lied to her husband. She lied to her husband's aunt. And now she's lying to everyone. What's your end game, OP? You and your parents are in the wrong. Nothing is going to fix this. I feel so bad for your husband and his family. I don't see this marriage lasting. You'll probably make yourself really hard to get rid of once he decides to divorce you. My male 33, parents are deceased. I have a younger sister 25 who's married and is expecting. I'm also married but don't have kids due to health issues on both sides. I'd visit and check on my sister from time to time. I'm not on great terms with her husband, 31, but we're civil to each other. She started calling and asking for my help more often since she got pregnant. I have no issue with this, but my brother-in-law thinks I'm being too involved in my sister and the baby's life. Last week, I got a call from my sister asking if I could take her to the doctor's office. It was a gender reveal appointment. I asked why her husband didn't take her, and she explained he was supposed to drive her, but he had to attend his mom's birthday and asked her to reschedule, but she refused. I took her to the appointment, but brother-in-law called and was furious, saying I shouldn't have gotten involved because now I'd cost him a precious moment in finding out if he was having a girl or a boy. Basically, I took this experience away from him, and he called me weird for being too involved in my sister's marriage and sticking my nose in it, to the point where I made the doctor think I was her husband. I told him the doctor thought I was her husband because of his absence and lack of commitment as a father. He blew up at me and I hung up on him. My wife said she gets that I want to help my sister out, but that I might have gone too far and should have respected brother-in-law's boundaries. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He blew up on you because he prioritized his mommy's birthday visit over his wife's appointment for her child's gender reveal? Lack of commitment as a father is one way to put it. I call it an entitled, spoiled mama's boy. I pity your sister for having a husband like that. She'll soon have 2 children to take care of. Good on you for being a great big brother. I can tell you're going to be a great uncle too. Keep it up. Your sister's going to need you. More than that, he sounds like an idiot who wants to isolate her from family. He calls the brother weird for being too involved with his sister so that he can make the brother pull away from the sister. He just got lucky she doesn't have parents she can rely on, so isolating her is easier. He had to attend to his mom's birthday and asked her to reschedule, but she refused. How did these 2 events, scheduled months in advance, end up overlapping? I'm just confused as to why the mother-in-law decided to have a birthday party sometime Monday through Friday before 5 p.m., because those are typical working hours for a clinic where ultrasounds would be done. I bet the mother-in-law's celebration was last minute. If a dude can't cut the cord by the time he's 30, he'll continue to have dysfunctional romantic relationships for a long time. It's admirable to stay close to family in a healthy way, but this ain't it. I'm married to my husband of 4 years, and we have kids similar in age to previous partners. My husband has a daughter, Susie, female 21, and I have a daughter, Lynn, female 21. This year, Lynn started her first year of university and is studying in another part of the country. She's gotten a loan to cover tuition, and I've sent Lynn some money to help her with living expenses, and she's planning on doing seasonal work over the holidays to get extra money. Susie has also started her second year of university in another part of the country. My husband has been sending her money regularly throughout her studies, and he pays her tuition. Recently, my husband came to me and said that Susie was struggling financially after having car problems and asked if I could pitch in and send her some money to help with expenses. We have a prenup and keep our finances separate, except for splitting rent and bills. I politely refused and asked if Susie had asked her mother to send her money. To clarify, her mother is and always was involved in her life. My husband got offended by my question and asked if I cared about helping out family members. He said it's only fair to send Susie money since I sent Lynn money. I pointed out that he doesn't send Lynn money. He said that Lynn wasn't struggling and got mad and accused me of playing favorites. I thought this was really out of the blue and told my husband that both Susie and Lynn have one parent that's financially helping them by sending them similar amounts of money, so it's not like their levels of support are really all that different. My husband didn't have it. He called me selfish and said that I'm being a garbage step-parent. Oh wow, not the idiot, but you need to find out where his money has gone. Based on what you've described, he should never have asked the question in the first place, and his reaction was way over the top. It's very common for people who know they're wrong to go on the offensive like this. It's also a bit worrying to me, unless OP left details out, why he's not being more upfront about Why straightforward car troubles could leave his daughter struggling enough to ask the step-parent and not be able to be supported by either bio-parent. Seems off. Gambling? Addiction? The husband's hiding something. Are you sure your husband is financially stable? It sounds like he might be having financial troubles also. Maybe Susie's bad at handling finances. I would sit them down and have a convo. If you don't want to support her, that's fine. But if you do, maybe you could just buy her a grocery store card with like $100 a week tops, so you know she's being fed and your money's being used effectively. Based on the fact that his daughter's mother is still active in her life and that your husband doesn't send your daughter money, I believe you don't owe your stepdaughter anything. Point out that your daughter's taking out loans and works while he covers his daughter's tuition. He can't cover Susie's tuition, be okay with Lynn taking loans, and demands yet more money for Susie. That's insane. Thank God for the prenup.